We begin with Chief Political Reporter Chris Daniels, who was one of the moderators tonight. Chris?
Hi, Greg. Yes, as you mentioned, this was a debate that was centered around the economy and the recovery in Seattle post-COVID. The candidates agreed on one thing in particular out of the gate, that homelessness is the biggest issue in Seattle right now. But as this delved into other topics, we did see some separation on issues like parks and services, on zoning, and in particular, the handling of the city's biggest employer, Amazon.
We want our employers to remain in the city, particularly if they are high road employers. So I'm willing to work with any employer who is willing to do the right thing by their employees, by making sure they can unionize, by making sure they have access to health care, to child care, and to transit opportunities that aren't congesting our streets.
Number one, they have to pay their fair share of taxes, number one. Number two, they have to align their corporate social responsibility goals with that of the city. That would be affordable housing, that would be homelessness, that will even be some of the healthcare initiatives that we will roll out.
Again, this was supposed to be about the economy, but we did see the discussion shift at times towards public safety and policing, with Lorena González talking in very harsh terms about the future of the Seattle Police Department, and Harrell attacking her at times, talking about that she wants to defund the police. That's his words, of course. González, as city council president, initially during the summer of 2020, believed that the police department budget could be cut by as much as 50%. I did have the chance to ask both of them towards the end of the debate whether they believed in the vaccine mandate and what they would tell any potential recruits who may want to come to Seattle about getting the shot. They said, both of them said that they believed you have to get the shot in order to work in the city of Seattle. A lot to unpack from this one. We'll have more coming up tonight at 10 o'clock, but for now, live in Seattle, I'm Chris Daniels, King 5 News.
Okay, thank you, Chris. As you said, a lot to unpack. So let's go now to our political analysts, former King County Executive Ron Sims and former White House Press Secretary for President Bush, Scott McClellan. So, Scott, let's start with you. Who do you think won?
Well, I thought they both did what they were intending to do. It was a pretty lively and feisty debate, and I think they both were going to stick to their talking points throughout the debate. They were clearly trying to draw some contrast on the key issues around homelessness, around policing. Particularly, you heard Bruce Harrell keep coming back to she's for defunding the police at 50%. You heard González sticking to her points about I'm for workers and accessibility and equity for all. You heard some contrast on single-family zoning and stark contrast there. So I think both of them did what they were trying to accomplish, and they were largely playing to their own voters. And whether or not those strategies work, we're going to find out in about 19 days.
Ron, what about you? What do you think? Who won? Ron, can you hear me? All right, Scott, as we fix Ron's earpiece, let's go ahead and ask you this. As you mentioned, they're trying to differentiate themselves between each other on certain issues, especially homelessness, as a #1 priority. Both of them said homelessness, but obviously there's a lot of issues that are intertwined here with small businesses in downtown Seattle, residents that we've spoken to at King 5 News. They definitely feel like homelessness is a huge issue. Ron, if you can hear me, I don't know if you have any thoughts now on which candidate did better on that issue in particular, in homelessness and just allowing businesses to thrive here in the city of Seattle.
I think both candidates talked about businesses, but what perplexed me a little bit is the city of Seattle cannot do it alone. And I didn't hear a discussion about relationships. The first relationship has to be that the county is actually the state at the local level, and what is relationship you're going to have with the county executive, Dow Constantine. Second is, what relationship are you going to have with the governor of the state of Washington? And thirdly, how are you going to work with the federal government in regards to the issues that are in Seattle? Seattle cannot do it alone. And to me, I appreciated everybody's instincts in regards to the need to take care of people who are poor. But my issue is people have heard that before. The key is how are you going to have a pathway that takes other governments that have more authority than you have and more money than you have, and how do you integrate them into Seattle's concerns in regards to the impacts of housing, the impacts of people who don't have housing at all. How do you stabilize small businesses? How do you create safer environments for people to work and play? So there's a lot of work ahead. Seattle cannot do it on its own, and I was looking for that partnership expression, and I didn't hear it very often, but you cannot do it without those partnerships being in play.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're going to check in with us in the next half hour, so Scott, we'll get to some more questions with you when we see you then. All right, we have another debate coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yep, October 28th, those topics will focus on, again, public health and safety and whatever else the candidates decide they want to talk about. It's going to air at 7 p.m. Here on Kong and also be streaming on king5.com.